What's up, everyone? I want to do a follow-up video. I've gotten a lot of comments on my original unboxing for the Levy. I think people wanted some more in-depth review on how it's been performing, so I figured I'd do a follow-up video. And also decided to include the M365, which ultimately is what I had replaced by getting a Levy back about 6 months ago. The main reason for that is I had just a lot of issues with the Xiaomi flat tires that were just really difficult to replace, really not great customer support for spare parts and things like that. So Levy's been a lot better. Obviously, they're based in the US, in New York. In general, I think when you see these two versions online, they can look pretty similar. In fact, they're quite different. Just looking at them now, you can see the battery for the M365 is in the floorboard of the scooter, whereas the Levy houses the removable swappable battery in the stem of the scooter. The folding mechanisms, again, quite different. I'll go into detail a little bit more and show you up close how each of them folds down and latches. So if you've had the Xiaomi, you know it latches based on the bill down here. The front latching mechanism is pretty similar on both. Now the problem with the Xiaomi is a lot of people have experienced this. You get this loosening up and rocking back and forth over time, and really there's not much you can do about it. I've tried to tighten some of the Allen keys on here, and it's kind of inevitable, to be honest. The Levy has a similar kind of latching mechanism on the back, except instead of using the bell, it comes with a latch right on the handlebars. Overall, while it's a similar locking mechanism to the Xiaomi, it really is a lot sturdier. You don't get any of that rock back and forth. And the main reason why is if you come and look at the front, it has a slightly different bracket up here that pulls it in really snugly. And you know, I've been riding this for 6 months and I've never had any issues with that coming loose yet. Okay, so getting a little bit more into the controls of each. If you're familiar with the Xiaomi, you know it has the basic battery indicator up top. No speedometer, unfortunately. Pretty decent bell. Throttle similar to the Levy. On the Levy, you do have a speedometer. There's also a couple nice onboard settings that can be changed, directly toggling the menu here, which is pretty nice. You don't need the app to do that. The Levy doesn't come with an app right now on this version. In terms of the bell, right here, the braking, similar. It has an e-brake, regenerative braking system for the front motor, and a disc brake on the back. Again, very similar to the Xiaomi in terms of the motor and brake setup. Both have rear lights. So I think the biggest difference between these two models is the Xiaomi has the battery in the floorboard of the scooter. Again, it's non-removable, a little bit higher capacity, but it really changes the center of gravity on the scooter, and that's the biggest change you'll see in the ride. The Xiaomi has a thinner neck. Most of the center of gravity is down below by the floor. So the Levy, again, there's no battery under here. It's a flat base of the battery being all housed in the inside of the stem right here. So again, shifts the center of gravity a little bit more forward to the front of the scooter, which I personally find a little bit more appealing, gives a bit sturdier of a ride. Out on the road, I really like the pneumatic tires the Xiaomi has, but I wish the steering stem just had a little bit more stability. I commute over the bridge for work, and I did a speed test. It's about a 12% incline grade. Xiaomi M365 gets up to about 11 miles per hour over this segment. In terms of foldability, again, it's pretty simple to get down. Latches right under the bell, pretty lightweight, about the same weight as the Levy, actually, around 27 pounds. The Levy on the road definitely feels a little bit more stable, I think, just because the stem is a lot more solidly secured. It has the battery up front that adds a little bit of extra weight. In terms of that same incline test, the Levy gets up to 13 miles an hour. Again, it's got a more powerful 350 watt motor, which helps. In terms of total standing room, the Levy has a little bit more floorboard space. Not much, but a bit more. The rear fenders on the Levy, this one actually steps down so it can double as a manual foot brake. The Xiaomi, again, it's kind of fragile. I know a lot A lot of times these break off on people, but mine just has a small crack in it. So one of the best things about the Levy, if you haven't seen, is the swappable battery. Comes out really easily. You can replace them. The batteries themselves, not too large. You can stick them in a book bag. Actually has an additional charging port on the bottom here. So if you wanted to keep a second and charge it externally, you can do that. If not, it has another charging port down here where you can plug in a wall adapter too. Another thing I wanted to highlight is just how to replace the Xiaomi M365 tire or put a new tube in compared to the Levy. Anyone with an M365 has probably had a flat tire. It's not very easy to go in and replace that, especially if it's on the front wheel. Overall, I just found it very, very time consuming having to replace those inner tubes. Getting them out and back in and getting the tire back over the rim is not easy, as most people probably have seen. So the Levy tires are a lot different. Obviously, there's no tube in here. It's a tubeless tire. If you look, you can probably see that there's a little valve. And that's kind of it. So if you ever do get a flat or leak, usually most people will fill this up with slime and reinflate. But yeah, I haven't had any flats yet or issues with that. That's pretty thick rubber, so I think it would be hard to get a puncture. But again, given that they're tubeless and the inner tubes don't need to be replaced, makes it a lot easier to maintain if you do have a flat. So I definitely don't regret upgrading to the Levy. I think it might be a little bit more expensive at this point, but the customer service you'll get, the quality of the build is probably definitely worth it for most people. And again, the removable battery is very unique, something that I don't think many other models have right now. And for the price, that in itself is worth it, I'd say, to have that flexibility to either keep a second or just replace it when it nears the end of the useful life.